I woke up to the sound of my phone screaming at me like it had just found out it was adopted. Not an alarm, no, that would be reasonable. This was a calendar notification reminding me to do nothing today. And I don't mean figuratively. I literally set an entire day aside to rest. No chores, no errands, no pretending to work while scrolling memes. Just pure, undiluted laziness, like a spa retreat, but in my own bed, and without the risk of being offered cucumber water by someone named Trevor. And somehow, here I am, 12 hours later with a sprained ankle, a dead houseplant, and an open police report in my name. How? Oh, friend, let me tell you. The idea was innocent enough. I've been stressed lately, the kind of stressed where your shoulders are basically earrings. I thought, why not dedicate a full day to relaxation? My plan was simple. Wake up late, stay in pajamas, nap, maybe binge a show that teaches me nothing about life. At 10 a.m., I was still in bed, feeling like a billionaire who had retired at 27. I had a blanket burrito going. My only movement was the occasional hand emerging from the covers to retrieve a snack, like some kind of soft, sleepy claw machine. Then I made mistake number one. I checked my phone. The first text I saw was from my cousin. You should try that deep rest challenge from TikTok. 24 hours of complete stillness. It's supposed to reset your brain. Complete stillness. I don't even sleep still. I'm the kind of sleeper who wakes up with the blanket somehow folded into origami. But I'm also stupidly competitive about things that shouldn't matter, so I thought, sure, I can do that. I can outrest anyone. I set my phone aside and committed. 5 minutes later, my nose started itching. Not the kind of itch you can ignore, the kind that gains sentience. I told myself, no, this is just your brain testing your willpower. But then it got worse, like my face was in a group chat with mosquitoes. By the time I gave in to scratch it, I somehow elbowed my water glass, sending it crashing to the floor. 1, I'm no longer still. 2, now I have a hydrological disaster zone next to my bed. So obviously, I had to get up and clean it, which meant I saw the laundry basket. And I thought, well, I can't truly relax with chores hanging over me. Next thing I know, I'm on my third load of laundry, wearing mismatched socks and aggressively Googling how to get rid of mystery towel smell. At this point, the rest day was already unraveling like a cheap sweater. But the real downfall, lunch. Because I decided to keep it easy with instant noodles. And somehow, don't ask me how, while pouring the boiling water, I missed the bowl entirely. It splashed down my leg, and I performed a dance that can only be described as unholy interpretive jazz. That's how I twisted my ankle, on a rest day. You'd think that'd be enough to stop me, but no. I decided to limp back to bed, ice pack in hand, determined to salvage the mission. That's when the doorbell rang. Normally, I'd ignore it, but then I remembered I'd ordered a package last week. Something small, harmless. Socks. I opened the door and instead found a man holding a clipboard, asking if I'd be willing to answer a few quick questions for a survey. My brain, still in its rest day fog, said yes. Big mistake. Because those few questions turned into a heated debate about parking regulations, which somehow turned into a mild shouting match, which somehow involved my neighbor calling the police just to mediate. So now, in addition to the ankle, the laundry, and the noodles, I had an official statement on file about whether or not the city should install speed bumps on our street. At this point, I was ready to quit. But quitting would mean moving, and moving would mean doing things. So instead, I collapsed on the couch and stared at the ceiling. And that's when it hit me. The first existential sidetrack of the day. Why is rest so hard? Why can I watch 6 hours of garbage TV on a normal Tuesday? But the second I plan to rest, the universe treats me like a contestant on some sadistic reality show called Can You Just Chill? I started thinking about how maybe rest isn't about stillness at all. Maybe it's about feeling safe enough to stop. And maybe I don't. Maybe I've trained myself to equate stillness with guilt. And then the ceiling fan started making a weird clicking sound, and I was immediately back to imagining it detaching, flying across the room, and decapitating me mid-thought. So now I'm lying there, ankle throbbing, laundry still spinning, ceiling fan threatening aerial assault, and I realize my day of rest has become a tactical survival exercise. It's like I signed up for a spa package and accidentally joined a Navy SEAL obstacle course. I tried closing my eyes to meditate, but all that did was make my brain present me with the entire inventory of every embarrassing thing I've ever done. Like that time in 8th grade when I waved back at someone who wasn't waving at me. The job interview where I said, I too am a big fan of the concept of food. The time I tried to pet what I thought was a cat, but was actually a purse. Rest was becoming emotionally dangerous. And then the real disaster struck. While in my semi-meditative, regret-filled state, I smelled smoke. Real smoke. I limped into the kitchen to find my noodles. Remember the ones that already burned me? Yeah. Apparently, I left the electric kettle on again, and while it didn't quite catch fire, it had started melting the plastic spoon I left too close to it. The smell was indescribable. Somewhere between hospital cafeteria and burnt Lego. I panicked, opened all the windows, which was fine, until a gust of wind knocked over my one surviving houseplant. Dirt everywhere. My last bit of indoor greenery. Gone. And of course, that's when my landlord stopped by for an unannounced quick inspection. So now she's standing in my living room, looking at the dirt-covered carpet, the open police notice on the table, and me holding a half-melted spoon like it's a weapon. This, dear listener, was my peak disaster. I don't even know what I said. Something like, I'm fine, I'm just resting, which is the most suspicious thing you can possibly say while limping through a smoky apartment. The landlord left quickly, probably to call her therapist. By now, I was spiritually exhausted. I returned to the couch, stared at the wall, and let the silence fill the room. And in that stillness, I felt something strange. Not relaxation exactly, but surrender. I realized that the point of a rest day isn't about controlling peace. It's about letting go. The more I tried to force stillness, the more the chaos grew to fill the vacuum. Like the universe was saying, oh, you want to do nothing? Here's everything. And maybe that's okay. Maybe rest isn't always peaceful. Maybe it's just the act of stopping, even if you stop in the middle of a mess. So here's the strange moral twist I came away with. If you want a perfect rest day, you'll never get it. The more you try to build a fortress of calm, the more life will throw flaming spoons at it. But if you just accept that chaos will come, burnt noodles, police involvement, dirt explosions, then even your disasters can feel restful. Because rest isn't the absence of noise. It's the moment you stop trying to mute it. Anyway, that's how I ended up here. Ankle wrapped in ice, sitting in a smoke-scented apartment, sipping cold noodles, and honestly, feeling okay. And as I sit here, I can't help but think back to this morning, to the moment I set that do nothing today reminder. If I could time travel back, I wouldn't warn myself. I'd just whisper, don't forget to buy a second houseplant. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.